It's 5 o'clock in London, it's midday in New York, midnight in Hong Kong, 4 a.m. in Sydney, 9 a.m. in San Francisco, and 10:30 at night in Mumbai. Greetings, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in the world today. My name is Patrick L. Young, the IPO-VID Livestream, Series 33, Episode 5. That puts us in the aggregate so close to 200 episodes, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 197 starts here. And Happy New Year, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world today. It's 2026. What's 2026 going to look like in market infrastructure? Well, first of all, hold your breath, or maybe don't hold your breath, given the fact that we've been waiting 20 years or more for this, but it could be the year that we see the National Stock Exchange of India finally make its IPO. T plus whatever is going to still be on the agenda, various countries in Africa moving to T plus 2, but of course the big one is going to be the kahuna of T plus 1, as we're looking towards that coming together in Europe in only, gosh, a year or so's time. The level playing field is going to be a big debate as we go through, because ultimately crypto is determined to try and make everything go via digital asset route, and look at the established stock exchanges fight back as they want to see a perfectly level playing field between the two sides of the ball. And of course, that will be drawn by the Paul Atkins agenda following that magnificent speech in December at the New York Stock Exchange, which really left us full of hope that he's going to unleash not so much the bull, but actually the opportunity for better investment, less bureaucratic investment, and indeed a greater chance to bring together Main Street firms onto Wall Street more and more. Consolidated tapes are going to be all the rage, and in fact that brings us elegantly towards our guest today. And indeed, one of the big things that people will be talking about alongside the whole nature of where the crypto market goes is going to be prediction markets, which have gone from absolutely nowhere to billion-dollar businesses during the course of the last year. Career news, we're going to be looking out for quite a lot of upheaval there. Valdine Reddy is going to become the CEO of Johannesburg Stock Exchange, taking over from the excellent Lila Fourie, who's retiring. That's going to be happening during the Q1, I do believe. Also, look at the Australian regulators. ASIC, Joe Longo is going to be retiring, and the new chair will be taking on what amounts to a very tricky roster, with the ASX in a somewhat difficult situation, let's put it that way. CBO Australia seems to be for sale as we're talking about it, or perhaps might be closed down. And also, indeed, in the Antipodes, we're going to be looking forward to a new boss of the New Zealand Exchange, as in March 2026, Mark Peterson will be retiring. And back in Europe, the sixth chairman, Thomas Vellar, will be leaving office at the company's AGM, and his replacement is going to be added there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, today we've got a fabulous show to start the new year. We are talking about good friends of this program. Delight to welcome back Paul Humphrey. He's the CEO of BMLL, and he has labyrinthine exchange experience, as well as across the investment banking environment, all manner of other placements between the interdealer broker community and much, much more in electronic markets, banking, exchanges, you name it. And of course, most recently, he's been the CEO of BMLL. And it's a brave new world for BMLL, ladies and gentlemen. And let's get straight to it. Paul, greetings, welcome. Where in the world are you today?
I'm very much in North London. Thank you, Patrick, for having me. So in London for Christmas.
Oh, good. Well, I hope that you have been enjoying a wonderful Christmas period, and it's all been good for you. And look, Paul, tell us a little bit. So many exciting developments to get through with BMLL. But tell us, first of all, about your cap table, massive takeover there, and a brave new world ahead of us.
It certainly is. And I'm very grateful to our existing investors that helped us on this journey so far. But no, we announced late last year the acquisition of BMLL by Nordic Capital. It's more than just an acquisition. It's a profound partnership built on a joint commitment to accelerate BMLL's next phase of growth. I've had the privilege of being the CEO of BMLL now for around 6 years, just over actually. And this was a business, as you know, Patrick, spun out of Cambridge University back in 2014. That 6-year journey, not one for the faint-hearted, I must tell you, but it's been one of tremendous growth. Clearly, through that period, we all had to contend with the pandemic. And during that time, with me and my management team, the business thrived. We brought on fantastic investors, as you well know. Nordic Capital clearly believed in that, and they could see that BMLL was ripe for expansion, and we can supercharge our growth. And they feel that they could be an amazing partner to us, and we agree. So, supercharging the growth, what does it mean? It means more data sets across asset class, enhance our go-to-market team, continue to innovate our product. And with Nordic Capital by our side, Optiva is still a shareholder and staying on the journey with us, which we're delighted about, and the impact we will have on the way that market thinks about and how it consumes historical data. The days of just managing poor quality historical data as the exhaust product from the real-time providers are well and truly over, in our opinion, in a world where you can't trade anything, frankly, anymore, unless you're an engineer, be it equities, futures, FX, fixed income. There needs to be a new standard for historical market data. The last thing anyone in those seats wants to do is scrub poor quality data before they can do anything useful with it. And that's where we come in. So no, Nordic Capital brings BMLL real firepower, and we're looking to put that to work in 2026 and beyond.
That's absolutely fabulous news altogether. And so, Nordic Capital, give me a little bit of an idea to their sort of background, Paul. How did you manage to encounter them in the first place to get the conversation going?
Clearly, they're a tier one private equity firm headquartered out of Stockholm, but with presence all around the world. They're actually making their investment in BMLL via its Evolution Fund. I've been speaking to them probably the best part of 18 months. As we did with many other private equity firms, they tend to track the performance of companies they think are interesting, and they check in every month or two to see how we're going. Nordic Capital clearly had conviction of strategy. They not only have been speaking to us over that period of time, and it wasn't just a case of Nordic selecting BMLL as the right company to invest in. Dare I say, we selected Nordic Capital as the right partner too. One thing that I'm convinced about, Patrick, is there's more money around than there is good ideas. And where our next raise of financing came from was deeply important to us. So it was the quality of the partnership that Nordic Capital brought along, the expertise that they have to hand, the support they can give a company like us through that next stage of growth is vital. So it's not just about turning up with the cash, it's about turning up with all the expertise that they have, and then they can truly help us partner as we grow.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, isn't it? It's a fascinating one-liner that there's more cash around than there are good ideas at the moment. And certainly there are an awful lot of people who seem to me to be just following the trends of what others are investing in. So it's very exciting to have Nordic Capital come in and really see the vision of what you've been building. But let's face it, my goodness, hasn't the world changed a great deal, Paul? You were on the show first time when I think IPO-VID was still in single or double digits, just well before the 100th show. And, here we are today. The whole world of market data it has moved along incredibly. But a large amount of that is also, it has to be said, down to a lot of what you've been trying to bring forward.
Well, we were called in one of the press releases about BMLL when it was acquired by Nordic Capital. We were described as a category creator, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was a fantastic expression. And there has been an irreversible shift in how the industry approaches market data, curation and consumption. Our good friends and partners at Optiva said to us, if the firms of that level of sophistication wouldn't trust any company to do its normalization for them. And their words to us was, if you get normalization 99% right, you might as well not bother. The minute we find a flaw in your methodology and strategy, then how can we trust the rest of it? It has to be perfect. And that buy to build trend, we think, will massively continue. Because look, frankly, people are hiring what we call quants, let's call them scientists, engineers. They're hiring them at breakneck speed and indeed at breakneck expense. the idea of this brilliant talent turning up and spending 80% of their day cleaning poor quality data before they can do anything useful is over. And think about that as you approach the wonderful world of AI. We have over 10 years of this quality of data in our lake across well over 100 venues around the world, the ones that you know and love, of course, Patrick. And that data contains every trading intention that's ever lived at any nanosecond in time across tens of thousands of instruments. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. And if you've got the skill to overlay that with other time series data, news events, corporate actions, tweets, the mind starts to boggle. Now, our job is to get the data ready. There's plenty of companies out there more than capable of building something on top of it. Well, if we're not your first choice of 10 years of curated data in this space, I'd love to see your second best choice.
Yeah, I mean, well, of course, that's exactly why you end up being the category creator, isn't it? And I mean, that's what we were talking about. It's so exciting, though. I mean, to think about the fact we were sitting here, 5 years ago, pretty much now, by the time we're watching this recorded video, and you were on IPO-VID 18 at a time when this all appeared a little bit more kind of, for want of a technical data term, woo-woo. I mean, the idea that you had all this clean data, that there was this huge lake of ability that people could simply go in and get to. And at that point in time, yes, it always amused me and continues to amuse me that people spend huge amounts of money on quants. And then, like great Michelin-starred chefs, they expect them to clean their own pots and pans before they can actually get into the kitchen, which appears to me to make no sense.
I agree. And look, back in when we first started, to build data of this quality, you build it from the ground up. And absolutely, when I first took over as CEO at the end of 2019, our messaging around level 3 and what we were doing, we had to be thoughtful on that journey because frankly, the market didn't understand it. There were those that just didn't grasp it at the time. And the ones that did truly grasped it didn't believe that we had done it properly. Now, then as we grew, we stuck to our mission. We didn't expand off into different asset classes. No, we stuck to our mission. And what people missed about BMLL is, once you've done the engineering at the ground level, the hardest part first, and then you've built analytics on it, so you become the data's first customer. Actually, you then have a really clean output in level 2, in level 1, and in trades. And that market is a very wide, addressable market indeed. And the infrastructure in that world hasn't changed for decades. It's been universally supplied by the real-time providers and storing real-time data, wrapping it, capturing it, selling it. And that process is fundamentally flawed. It has gaps, spikes, packet losses. They're all the same. Now, because we come at it from the bottom up and then build analytics on it, our level 2 and level 1 feeds pristine. Now, the barrier to us entering that world was global coverage. I couldn't go along to our customers and say, I've got a great European solution for you, and leave them with a headache around the world. So our 2023 funding expanded our global coverage. So in equities, for example, we have 99% of global ADV. And not only do we supply level 3 data, of course, we supply level 2, level 1, and trades. And our right to win in that world is quality because it's built from the ground up. You can only build from 3 to 2 to 1. You can't build from 1 to 2 to 3. And that was the bit that back in the day you're talking about, people didn't see that vision for the future of BMLL. And that's where we are today. And that's why we've expanded so rapidly. So next year, global derivatives and options. We have CME, ICE, Eurex, Johannesburg and Australia today. We'll have Hong Kong as well. But Singapore, CBOE, Japan, we've got demand for all of this. And that's where we're going now.
That's absolutely fascinating. And it's a very interesting point, the cascade effect of you clear your level 3 and therefore your level 2, your level 1, all of the different levels of data suddenly find themselves improving, which has been such a revolutionary impact and is now palpably proven to be working, which is different to where we were 200 shows ago when we were talking about this, where you were showing and explaining and a lot of people had to pick up. So tell us a little bit about, what's that journey been like? You've talked about getting to the exchanges that we all know and love. When you're dealing with the buy side and the sell side, it's obviously been very exciting because we've seen you creating some great partnerships that you've been publicizing.
Certainly have. And we think about our clients in three major areas. Of course, we buy raw content from the exchanges and we sell them content back. If I think back to the days when we first started talking, we couldn't buy a citation from an exchange who was using our data and research. Now we're used by well over 40 exchanges globally. You can't have a week go by without a piece of research coming from an exchange that doesn't use us as source. Then we have the sell side customers, of course, large and small, and that's been a fantastic journey for us. And then with the hedge funds, as I said, tier 2 and tier 3 hedge funds, startup hedge funds love us because we accelerate their route to market. The really sophisticated ones didn't believe we could build the product properly. And now we have many of those customers globally. And I think it was a game changer when Optiva became an investor in us. But clearly, the major area of growth over the last couple of years has been the buy side. We have sovereign wealth funds, we have large global asset managers, I would say some of the biggest asset managers in the world. And indeed, they all came together and wanted us to launch a client product advisory board where you have the sell side, the buy side collaborating with us and agreeing what first class normalization is. And then, of course, they go off and do what they want to do with the data from their different use cases, but agreeing that market standard was, that's been a tangible change for us. And working with that client product advisory board, we are very, very proud of that. And you can expect to see that expand.
That's phenomenal. It's really, really phenomenal, all of the things that you're progressing through. And talking about data points, I'm going to let you have a rest for a moment, Paul, as we go through our middle segment. But one of the things that, of course, is a vitally important source of data is population. And nothing is more exciting, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, looking towards economic growth than staring straight in the face at a couple of very sexy population pyramids. Some of those these days, they're coming out of the nations in Africa. And here's a little video to discuss some elements therein. Meanwhile, in Big World, here's a fun fact. It's worth considering how Africa is an epicenter of population growth, being home to 1/4 of planet Earth's population come the year 2050. For more in Big World, like or follow. And that, of course, ladies and gentlemen, is going to drive a great deal more investment data as the African exchanges rise. And indeed, the need for investment in Africa is going to continue in order to manage to help those 1 in 4 people in the world who are going to be on that vast and mineral-rich content. Let's also think about some books, ladies and gentlemen. It's the start of the year. What would you like to be reading right now? Well, I will give you a couple of suggestions. These are some of the books of the week that rounded out the last year in the Exchange Invest canon. They were all in EI Weekend. That's our free macro weekend read. You can subscribe to that at exchangeinvest.com. The Scrappy Entrepreneur, that was IPO-VID number 193, and it was a joy to welcome author Veronique Pfeiffer to discuss how to effectively lead an innovation dynamic setup. And it was also fascinating to talk to her on that particular show, IPO-VID 193, because, of course, we were talking about someone who had a background not in finance or fintech, but actually in the world of healthcare. And what a fascinatingly heavily regulated dynamic that is, somewhat akin to the world in which we operate every day in financial markets. Jake Cousineau, he was our guest on IPO-VID 191, and that was another terrific show. Face Your Financial Careers, retail-oriented finance book. I thoroughly recommend it, with actionable steps to address your money problems and set measurable goals that are relevant to the person. Still not too late to add something to your New Year's resolutions, ladies and gentlemen. Then our book of the week, which is the current week, was Philip Auger's magnificent tale of investment banking growth and how they played the free markets, the greed merchants, thoroughly readable from start to finish, that tome, as are indeed all the books that I can think of in the canon of Philip Auger's output. Back to today, and we're discussing this brave new world for BMLL on a recorded show to start the year. We're here with the CEO of BMLL, Paul Humphrey. So Paul, tell us, first of all, I think we can probably escape all the football cliches. If I tell you you're excited, you're going to say, I'm very excited. Let's get through that bit. Tell us what it is that's really driving that excitement for you in 2026 and beyond, as well as this globalization of derivatives products, the globalization of exchanges. What's going to be on the agenda?
Well, I think one of the things that gets us excited to discuss that is when we announced the Nordic acquisition, what was utterly remarkable was the reaction of our clients. When you're building a company from an early stage, as I said, 6 years of building this company, when clients decide to go with an alternative provider, people really are sticking their neck out internally in their organization. You know, the old adage of no one gets fired for hiring IBM, still true today. So when we announced in November, the reaction from our clients was extraordinary. The ones that had conviction of strategy, knew quality when they saw it, this was their I told you so moment. And we clearly witnessed our clients sharing in the success of the announcement, which was brilliant. And look, you know, people like to be associated with that. We have customers today. Everyone talks about the cost of market data, but I think now people are starting to really focus on the total cost of ownership, the army of talent you need to engineer that data to make it usable, to make that data available. The questions that people ask of you, your clients ask of you, you can't go away and say, I'll get back to you. You need to have those answers to your fingertips, because if you don't, your competitors will. It's as simple as that. So the demands are high. And as much as the data industry certainly innovated when it came to real-time infrastructure and real-time feed, the suppliers didn't innovate when it came to historical data, which is why the most sophisticated firms in the world went off and did it by themselves. It wasn't as if we were winning business from other providers. They just went off and did it by themselves. In fact, it's what inspired me to get involved with BMLL back in the day. They were building a capability I simply didn't think could exist outside of 4 or 5 of the most sophisticated firms in the world. So that level of sophistication is only going one way. The other thing is the level of regulatory scrutiny is only going to go one way as well. So if you don't know where Vodafone closed at 10:23 last Wednesday, it's your problem. It's not Bloomberg's problem. It's not LSEG's problem. You own it. And that level of regulatory scrutiny is continuing. You talked about the consolidated tape. We're certainly proud to back EuroCTP, be its validation source for its tape and indeed for its clients. So we're very proud about that. So in short, sticking to historical data, and when our clients are demanding that that data that we engineer arrives with them before market open, so it can power some of the most powerful algos in the world, tells you this isn't just telling you what happened yesterday. This is helping you predict what's going to happen next. Otherwise, why would customers want to put that intelligence into their algo before the day starts? And that was a secret that only a handful of companies knew around the world. But in 2026, that's very different.
Fabulous stuff. Total cost of ownership. I think that is a very key thing, because a lot of people endlessly complain about the costs of data, but they don't think about holistically what they've got. And equally, as you say, it's your problem if you don't know where Vodafone settled last Tuesday or a month ago or wherever it was. And also, let's face it, it's your problem if you don't know when Vodafone settled what it had actually done during the course of that day, because that's going to be able to better prove the rationale for whatever was the reason that you did that order. All of those things are things that you're really bringing forward well. I'm delighted you highlighted the consolidated tip, because I was just going to ask you about that, because what do we got here? 27 different national stock exchanges are all members of the European Union Consolidated Tape. And in essence, they've all voted for the idea that BMLL should be the people that check and verify that the data works. That's got to be quite some vote of confidence that, after 6 years, you must be very, very proud for the team to bring forward.
Yes, I am, and certainly hope it is that level of validation. I think the team, the EuroCTP team, have done a fantastic job in pulling together what is a very complex project indeed. And you can imagine over the 2 years or 3 years of debate leading up to this point, as a former CEO of Euronext, of course, in London, I used to get lots of inquiries about what my thoughts were on the tape and do I think it'd be a good idea, bad idea. We stuck to our guns. We have the historical tape of truth. It can't be argued with. That's our speciality. So what we wanted to do was ensure we partnered with the winning team. We were asked many times, are we planning on building a real-time tape? Well, no, we're a historical data specialist. Why would I think we were capable of doing that? So we knew, and I think that's key to our growth, is we've known what we are and who we are and what we can provide. And there's a lot of things that we can go on to evolve and do, markets we can change in, and all the applications that use our data. But certainly sticking to our knitting has been why clients trust us.
Sticking to your knitting has been why clients trust you. Execution, delivery, all great things that you have achieved superbly since we saw you on show number 18. And here we are, good grief, on show number 197. Paul, we're looking forward to seeing you in about 110 shows' time. You'll have taken over the world. No, it's really, really fantastic. It's superb with the Nordic Capital acquisition. I suppose it only remains for me to say, would you like to add something to your previous answer and where you think the capital market revolution goes next?
Hasn't it always been about the data? When I think about my years driving e-commerce, when I think about my years as a trader and a broker, it's always been about the data. And that will be the cornerstone of success going forward, not just to understand the market dynamics, but to improve decision making. As the world becomes increasingly quant and AI driven, our mission, I think, is more important than ever. So to anyone out there who's still undecided if they can meet, who can meet their data and analytics needs, look no further, come and speak to us.
And on that note, thank you very, very much, Paul Humphrey, for being a fabulous first guest of 2026, rejoining us after your brilliant show on show number 18. It has been a delight to share here BMLL. A new chapter opens, and we're very much looking forward to watching that chapter develop and indeed seeing how that performs over the course of time, because I think it's going to be fabulous for market data, for markets, and indeed it'll be very, very exciting to see the EuroCTP finally get a consolidated tape together. Who knows, they might even manage to talk the US SIP into doing something nearly as coherent. It's one of the few areas where I think Europe is leading the game at the moment. I want to say a huge thanks to our first guest of the year. Oh, Paul, say something. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think you're going to see fantastic innovation go on in the derivative industry. I really do. If it's the point of where I think we all go from here, across derivatives, futures, options, I think the way the market thinks about data in that world and how the market reacts to it, I think we're going to see some really interesting innovation going forward.
A third dimension, the three-dimensional markets. It's going to be super-tastically exciting. And we haven't even got to what can possibly be done if people can manage to rationalize further OTC data and other products. It's going to be a really, really amazing time. Paul, thank you very, very much for joining us today. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen, on this, a new chapter for BMLL with their very exciting takeover by those private equity titans, Nordic Capital. We'll be back next week. I just want to say a huge word of thanks. We're going to be looking forward to a fabulous show also for IPO-VID 198. We will be live with this, ladies and gentlemen. NASDAQ's blueprint for Europe with the boss of NASDAQ in Europe, Roland Chai, a man who previously ran the technology franchise. That's going to be another fantastic show. It's a delight to start the year off with two such brilliant folks from the technology data end of the spectrum of our markets. My name is Patrick L. Young. I want to say thank you very, very much for joining us today. Thanks again to our guest, Paul Humphrey. If you're looking for a marketplace or anything else to be built, then do get in touch. And indeed, don't forget Exchange Invest, the exchange of information, the water cooler of the bourse business. You can handily subscribe at exchangeinvest.com. And I just want to say a final word of thanks to our fabulous production team today. Thank you very much, Kim. Thank you very much, Jamil and Marianne, for making this another seamless IPO vid. We'll be back next week. And don't forget, in the meantime, whatever data needs you have, they can be met by BMLL.